Welcome back to Light Talk, where everyday people can share their own unique spiritual journey stories with a safe and supportive community. If you have any stories you have experienced within the paranormal or unexplained, email me at lighttalk423@gmail.com. And while you're at it, click on the like, share, and subscribe buttons. Today, we have a fantastic guest for you today, and I would like for her to go ahead and take over. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Of
So my name
course.
is Laura Giles, and I'm the host of Paranormal PTSD podcast. I'm also a trauma therapist, so you can see the segue between both of those. And I grew up in a family where the paranormal was normal, so lots of weird things happened all the time. But then as I was working, then I started noticing that a lot of people were coming because of their trauma with PTSD. Typically, they didn't start out with that, because nobody wants to think that they're crazy. But then after a while, the stories would come out, and I was like, wow, this happens to lots and lots of people. So I'm here today to share my story because I think it's really important what you're doing to help people to know that they're not alone. And the stories can look really, really different. So I think having that base of all the different types of things that can happen is really good too. So thank you so much for having this show.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to start it because I didn't want to have everyone think, oh, this is just crazy stuff. I'm
Hmm.
going crazy or anything. You're not. I mean, there's so many
Mm-mm.
people out there that's sharing very similar stories, and I like to share my stories, and I want everybody else to be able to share theirs too. So, yes, welcome and excited to hear the stories.
I have lots of them, and I'm going to share some of the weirder ones. And the first one happened when I was on a camping trip at this private property that belongs to a church, and anybody can go there and rent the facility. So it's huge. It's 75 acres. Um, but it's even feels even bigger than that because on one side you have this great big farm, so it's just fields, and on the other side there's another farm, and then behind that is a wildlife preserve. So there's nothing in there. It's just you and nature. And I was there with my family and some friends, and when we got there, there was this big fire built up like a wicker man. And that thing took some time to create, and it felt sacred. Like, a lot of people put some time into building this thing, and I didn't want to burn it down, but that's what we're there for. So we did burn it down, and it didn't seem like there was anything out of the ordinary other than the fact that it was there. And then that night, when we go to sleep, it seemed like the strangeness started happening right away because the first thing that I noticed when we got into the tent was that it sounded like it started raining. It's just like, okay, cool. We're in here, it's toasty dry, no problems. And then I woke up in the middle of the night and I hear this, what sounds like a helicopter overhead. So it sounds like the rotor of the helicopter is turning, but there was no, or it could have been like a big truck coming down the road, but mind you, we're in this space that it's just big and wide open. The road is nowhere near and there's no Doppler, so the truck is not moving. So that's why I thought, well, maybe it's a helicopter overhead, but nothing's blowing around. So nothing was making any sense at all. But strangely, it wasn't like, hey, what's going on? Let me wake somebody up. Do you hear that? None of that was going on. And I later found out that everybody was having an experience and nobody thought to say, do you hear that? Nobody. So I'm just
Oh.
laying there, and then this music comes on, and it sounds like, so one person said it sounded like fairy music, and someone else said it sounded like an ice cream truck. So it was kind of like, bells tinkling, ding, 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 that kind of, um, it's very soothing, very, not alarming at all. Almost a party, lively, but like a fairy party, if there's a party. So finally, my daughter gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and as soon as she gets up, then I get up, and then my friend gets up out of her tent, and we rush inside, and that's when we start talking about, did you have any experiences last night? What happened? You know, and found out then once we started looking around, there was no rain. There was nothing was wet at all. There was a big drag mark in the grass, like something had flattened the grass, like had landed there, maybe some big, big. I don't even know what it could have been, but big. And the grass was darker there than everywhere else.
Like, was
And
this big,
my
like a boulder big, like a big rock, or was this big like a car size? Can you give us an idea
a
the
semi
size?
truck, probably
Oh my,
big. Yeah,
big.
yeah.
Yeah.
hmm And my bedroll was moved. So I went to it was we were in a big family size tent and I went to sleep at one wall and woke up on the other wall. And it wasn't like I rolled over or moved. My entire bedroll had shifted. And as I was putting everything away, I noticed that so I was on three layers. There's one on the bottom, the one in the middle, and then I'm in a sleeping bag. The middle layer, the bottom of the middle layer was wet, like it had been put on wet grass or something. It wasn't like real wet, but it was wet. Have no idea what any of that was about. And even though all of us felt like we had not slept all night, like this thing went on all night, everybody felt really energized and alive and just so good for days. It was so strange.
Wow.
So whatever was going on, it didn't feel creepy or threatening at all. It felt good. And then we went and walked by the fire pit the next morning because a lot of us thought that the music sounded like it was coming from the fire pit. And as soon as we crossed this certain threshold, the hair on all of our arms just went, and we didn't even have to look at each other to know that we had all experienced something. It was like, did you feel that? We did. I don't know what happened, but I don't know. I think maybe something did happen that night at the fire pit, and we were just kind of observers on the outside. I don't know. It was very, very strange.
Wow. Wow. So you think maybe the fairies were having a party or something there, or when you burnt this straw man or what down, is that something that the fairies were wanting to happen? Or yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to connect those dots, but that's kind of the story that I'm telling because I don't have a better explanation. Yeah, I
And you're
don't know.
sticking with it, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's a
That
real fun one.
Yeah, that is a fun one. And that's one that, I mean, like we were just saying, everyone has their own unique stories. And
hmm
to be able to tell them is just so cool. I just love that. Just
Yeah.
love it. So that was one of your stories. Can you tell me some more?
So I have a one that's kind of scary. Um,
Okay.
I So we grew up real open to the paranormal. And of course I'd heard of aliens because there's Star Trek and Star Wars and all of this, but I never really thought about it all that much until I read this book by Ruth Montgomery called Aliens Among Us. And Ruth was like a press secretary or press for the, political in that arena. And then she comes out and she writes this book about aliens and which to me gave it a lot more credibility because she's not going to put her reputation on the line going from something like that to writing about something kind of crazy like aliens if she didn't really believe what she was writing about. So I was
Right.
fascinated by the book, read it cover to cover, and I finished up about 2 o'clock in the morning. And I was so excited. I just thought, oh my God, there's aliens here and they've been here and it's just so great. And so I said out loud, aliens, if you're here, come and see me. And I was just so sincere and so excited. I go to sleep and I wake up and boom, they are there at the foot of my bed. And then it's kind of like, be careful what you wish for. Because they did show up and they were in my room at the foot of the bed. There was about five or six of them just standing there. And so I've talked to lots of people about this, and it was really strange because it sounds kind of crazy saying it, but I'm just going to say it because this is what happened. They
Yeah.
looked like they were wearing KKK hoods. They had like these white pointy hats, or another way to say it is they look like Oogie Boogie from The
Mm.
Nightmare Before Christmas, just pointy hats. I don't know.
Mhm.
And they didn't say anything. They were just kind of standing there. And I noticed that there was no ambient light in the room. So normally, my bedroom window, there was a light right outside. And so light would come in. It was never really that dark in there, but it was pitch black. But somehow I could see them and they looked white. I don't know. None of that makes sense, but that's how I perceived it. And I was terrified, not because they were doing anything threatening, but it was just like, they're here, who are they? What do you want? And I'm screaming in my head because I'm paralyzed. I can't even speak. And I'm screaming, who are you? What do you want? Leave me alone. And as soon as I said, leave me alone, poof, they were gone. And I could feel myself thawing out from head to toe. And it was like I couldn't wait for my feet to come back online so I could move because I was just still just terrified. And finally, when I could move, I turned on all the lights in the house. I'm looking everywhere. I'm just, just trying to make sure, am I safe? Am I safe? And then, of course, I was safe. Um, and to this day, I've never heard any story like that either. Like with the cone heads, the KKK thing. I think they were robes, maybe, but I'm not quite sure. Maybe it was a screen memory. I don't really know what happened there either. If anybody out there knows, please put some comments because I would love to know your thoughts. Yeah, I
Well,
don't know.
it's kind of crazy because what you're explaining, except for the cone head and the lights, I don't recall too many lights in my room because I don't think the lights were too different when in my room when that happened to me. Because I had
Oh,
the same experience happen to me. I heard noises outside. I heard a cat, and then I heard what like fireworks outside in the trash can where I lived. Oh, but mind you, I'm on the third floor, and so it made me open my eyes. And I opened my eyes. There is an ET out my window, and three at the end of my bed, one on the side of my bed, and one in my closet.
oh my
And
God.
they did the same thing. They paralyzed me, and I was screaming in my head,
Uh,
call mom." Like my mom would be able to do anything. But that's what I did.
hmm
So I went to try to call my mom because I'm young in an apartment by myself. So I had the phone right next to me and I couldn't move. All I could do
hmm
is like move my wrist and my fingers, and I couldn't move anything else. I couldn't lift my arm. It was paralyzed to the bed. So I know what you're saying with this. And next thing I know, it was morning and I was waking up.
Wow.
So I understand. I get you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
real. It happened.
it is.
hmm
It's very real. So
And
did
do
you
we have time for another quick one?
yeah, yeah, we
Okay.
do. We
Okay.
do.
This one's fun too, I think.
Well,
So I'm
I
at
love it. Bring it on.
I am in Wyoming at the Devil's Tower with two friends, and we are sleeping in a teepee. So for some backstory, the Devil's Tower is where Close Encounters was filmed, and it's notorious for ET or not ET, UAP, UFO sightings. And so we're there, we're sleeping, and I get up in the middle of the night and I grab the person in the center's arm. And I am so embarrassed. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. Because I just did it out of nowhere. I was dead asleep and and it's like, what's going on? And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And then then I start to go back to sleep and I hear the tarp under the teepee crunching, like he's going outside. And I hear the flap open and I figure, okay, going to nature call. And I'm listening. I don't hear him come back. And I must have fallen asleep. And then the next morning we get up and I said, where'd you go? He's like, what are you talking about? I was like, when you got up last night. He's like, I didn't go anywhere. Thinking, well, who is it? Who was in the tent? Because I heard the crunching. That was,
Yeah.
you could hear it. I heard the flap. I heard the gust of the wind as the flap, no one there. I guess that's what he says. And then 2 nights later, now I'm at home and well, actually, I don't know that I'm home. 2 nights later, I wake up. I'm in a strange place. I have no idea where I am. It is pitch black and I'm naked in bed. I don't know how I got there. I'm like, what the heck is going on? where are my friends? And I'm trying to search my memory. When was the last time I saw them? Okay, I saw them at the restaurant the night before. We had dinner, and now I'm here, and I don't know how I got here. I'm thinking I've got to find the keys. I've got to get my clothes. I've got to find them, and we have got to get out of here. And I'm down on the floor, naked, looking for clothes, looking for keys, and I'm scrounging around. And then it dawns on me somehow I'm in my room, and this is 2 days later. I'm not it's with them. It wasn't the night before that we had dinner. I've been home. And it was just so bizarre because it was so real. And you know, when you wake up in a different place, I get you can be disoriented. But you're not
Oh yeah.
typically disoriented when you're in your own house. You know your own house. But there was something different about the light in that room as well. There was no ambient light there either. It was pitch black. And then once I was able to register, oh, I'm in my own room, it was like the lights came back on. I could see, I was looking at this light. I'm like, what is that light? What is that light? It was my smoke detector.
Oh no.
I had no idea. I was like, it was so strange. Like I'd never seen one before in my life. It was weird. Yeah, so I think those two situations are connected. I have no idea. They're both really weird and it involved the
I
same people. Yeah, but we didn't have
yeah.
dinner together. The thing that I was thinking in my mind that I created this memory that we were had dinner, the place never existed. We didn't do that for real. So I don't know what any of that was about.
And did they have the same kind of dream?
No. Mm-mm.
They don't recall doing anything like that either, huh?
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. No. Now, my friend did acknowledge that I grabbed him and woke him up, but that was the only thing that they could verify. And I'm a lucid dreamer, so typically when I'm dreaming, I know that I'm dreaming and I have control. I've never been disoriented or confused like that while dreaming. So I wasn't dreaming because I'm crawling around the floor, and I was wondering, how did I get naked? Where are my clothes? Just so bizarre.
Oh, yeah, that almost sounds like I don't know how if anybody knows anything of this or if I'm just babbling or whatever, but this is what kind of comes to my mind is that possible you were taken and then when you came back, you were just um what was the word you used? You didn't know where you were at. I mean, because you were in somebody else's place and then you came back and you were still thinking you were in this other realm.
Yeah.
So you came back in the midst of your transferring over. Does that make sense?
Yep, I'm following you. I'm following you.
Yeah, you think maybe something like that, like you woke up in the middle of the return?
I hate to, well, I mean, it is what it is. I think it probably was an abduction situation. I just don't have enough memory of that ever to say conclusively, but it's the only thing that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because I've got missing time too.
Mm.
And uh, I'll just make it real fast. I remember locking the house door, but I don't remember turning around, getting to work and everything. But after our morning meeting, that's when I came back.
Hmm.
But I've had other times where it's like I was driving and I went to turn off. And I think that's when I came back because I realized I was turning off on the wrong exit. So I came back in my lane and I looked at my rearview mirror and there was a cop behind me. So I was like, whoever was driving for me did a good job because, as far as I know, there's no warrant for my arrest. And I don't recall seeing a ticket anywhere. So, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
somebody knows how to control a car or put me in where I need to be placed at the right time. I get it. I get it.
Yeah, it's so bizarre.
Hmm. Yeah, it is really crazy. Really crazy. You have any more stories?
Oh, I have lots. I have lots. But for most of them, it's just a lot of just, normal. It's just like, oh, that's happening. Oh, and I don't give it a lot of attention, but these stand out because they're just so bizarre. Um, but once I get talking about it, I get on the roll. It's like, oh yeah, that happened. Oh yeah, that happened. Oh yeah, that happened. Uh, and one of
Yeah.
the things that I do is a sacred travel. So I take people to sacred places. And those places are full of spirits. And I don't know if it's because of the ley lines, just the energy of the place, or I have a theory that when you go to these places that have been sacred for so long, so people just know, they gravitate to this spot because of the energy there, and they worship there, and they held their rituals there, and all of this, and that place holds that memory. And so when you go to a place like this, it's very easy to slip into another dimension or see things. Certainly it is paranormal. It's not scary though. It's just kind of, wow, that happened, and it kind of takes you to a different place. And it is also hard to explain because it's not sensory in the same way that the other ones that I talked about were. There's something really different about it that makes it very hard to talk about because it almost happens in a different, I think it probably does happen in a different realm, actually. I've tried to catch pictures of that and nothing ever shows up on camera, but you see what you see and you feel what you feel. So I think there's lots of different magical things that can happen. And I don't think any of it's, even though I was really scared with the alien one, which I think it was aliens. I think it's just, different. And most of it's probably not harmful. Um, Not to say that none of it is, but I wouldn't want to come up on a Bigfoot, for example. But yeah, I think that could be scary and harmful. But I think most of it is just this is the wonderful, wacky world we live in, and I think it's really mysterious, and I like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's a mystery for sure. And there's so
Yeah,
much out there. And I wouldn't mind running into a Sasquatch, but I know there's good and there's bad out there.
yeah.
So I would love to become friends with one. I think that would be just so, I think that would be magical. It, I get all ooh with that one. So
Yeah, I haven't had that encounter, but I have had
maybe.
fairies, lots of fairies. And like I say, they're just really hard to talk about because it's for me, I've never heard anybody else's fairy stories. I would love to actually. I probably should look at that. But these beings are, it's just, it's really like being in a different dimension because the words just don't describe it. It's not like the physical at all. So, yeah, I mean, and they're everywhere. They're everywhere, and you just never know. Like, boop, there they are. Ooh, there they are.
Yeah, I have actually a story for you.
Oh,
I haven't seen one that I know of. But my husband and I was on a trash walk, and so we go around picking up trash when it gets too filthy around our area because we can't handle that. So we go
yeah.
and pick it up. But anyways, we're on our walk, and we get to this corner, and out of the blue, I hear this, "Hello." And I look around, there's no one around, and I'm like, "Did you hear that?" To my husband, and he's like, "Yeah, plain as day." And I heard it from like I usually wear cargo shorts. So I heard it in my pocket. But that day I had no pockets on.
Oh,
So it wasn't from a pocket. And he heard it from behind him, and I was behind him.
hmm.
So now every time we pass that spot, I'm like, "Hello, is anybody here? Hello."
Yeah, I believe they're
So,
here. I do believe
mhm,
they're here. And I think that sometimes, I don't think they're in this dimension, but I think sometimes whatever happens, the energy is what it is, and we can see them, they can see us. And, for a while we share some time.
mhm. Yeah. I think there was a moment there they just wanted to say thank you for cleaning up their homes, because it was like all the trash and everything. I think it was a thank you. So, you have any more stories?
Oh, good thing you can edit. Let me think of one. Um, well, this is going to be controversial. I've never said this to anybody because I'm a little bit, I don't know. This is something you're not supposed to do. But when when we were little, we used to play with the Ouija board all the time, like
Mm,
obsessed with it. Now, mind you, I grew up with the stuff, it was normal. So we would do a ritual around it to create a safety bubble. So
okay.
um nothing ever bad came in, but we would talk to so if you ask for certain people or certain entities or certain energies, a lot of times they will answer and they will show. And I can't say for sure that this is who came through, but we would ask for all kinds of people, and we would have conversations with them. And we talked to Elvis. We talked to gods and goddesses, and we're little kids, so we're asking little kid questions for the
Right.
most part. And we talked to the goddess Isis. We said, "Oh, let's talk to Isis," and you can feel the energy is different. So that each time a entity comes through, the planet moves differently. And when we got
Mm,
Isis, Isis was cerebral, and she was very no nonsense. And she basically told us, "Knock it off, stop kidding around, and be more serious." And we were like, "Whoa." And it really made it a different situation because I mean, I was probably 12 that summer that we were playing like every day nonstop, and it really did take it to a different level because most of the time, like I said, we were asking little kid questions, just curious about different things. And when that energy came through, I really took that seriously. Like we do need to be more careful about what we're doing and how we're doing it. And then once I was doing it when I was in my early 20s, and the people that were with me were in their early 20s, and they were trying to get darkness to come through. They were
mm,
provoking them and all that. And that was really the last time I did anything with it. It was like, I think the Ouija board is a tool. I understand people's fear of it, but I think it's just like if you call anybody, if you just calling out to anybody, anybody can show up. And some of those people are going to be good and some of them are not going to be good. And if you open the door, then you could get hurt. And when I've never been around people who were that reckless before or that they were kind of like daring something bad to happen. And I did
mm.
not want to be around that at all. And yeah,
No.
that was the last time I did that because yeah, I don't know. I just grew up with more respect for all life than that. And I think if you're going to use any tool, you have to have that respect.
Right. Right. And have your protection and everything. And that was something great you did when you were younger, is having that protection. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
You were had it. You were cautious enough to do that, which is unheard of, really.
Oh, always. Yeah. That's just the way, that's how you roll. When you're engaged with the spirit world, you have to do it clean with respect, and they will come to you in the same way. And if you meet anything that is not that way, then you disconnect. And that's what we always did.
Yeah. Well, good for you. Good for
Yeah.
you. Yeah. Everybody has a different viewpoint on those. And I
Yeah.
personally would not touch it, but
And I,
I
I
am,
wouldn't recommend anybody do it either, honestly, because it
yeah,
is just an open door. You're knocking on the door, you're opening the door, anything can come in.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's a good thing to end on. So just be careful out there. Don't be messing with those Ouija boards.
Right. I
Your
agree.
distance.
Totally agree.
So here's one more question. Have you gotten rid of the Ouija board? Because I hear of different ways to get rid of it if you are done with it and you don't want to deal with it anymore. How, what is the best way to discard of that?
That is a great question. I still have minor works of art, They're handmade, they're really beautiful. I still have them. So I have not gotten rid of them. But speaking ritually, when you use something as a ritual tool, you do need to get rid of it in a ritualistic way. Um, I think burning is a good thing.
Yeah, I've heard burning. I've heard not to just throw it away because it'll come back. Is that something?
I've heard that too. I've
Yeah.
heard of that too. I think that may have happened, honestly, because I know that when we were little, we had one. I thought we got rid of it, but then we had one. So I can't say for sure that it came back, but it might.
Okay. So the best thing is just to burn it then, is your,
Yeah. So
yeah,
so
okay.
anytime you're getting rid of any kind of ritual tool, burning is always good. So I think that would be good with a Ouija board too. I mean, hopefully you're using it in that way and not just playing with it. It's a toy. I know it's sold as one. It's really not a toy.
It's not, yeah. Yeah. I'd be nice if they would change that.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, thank you so much for all your awesome, beautiful, wonderful stories and those coming from your purity and you. I mean, it's so unique. It's you. I love it.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, well, you're welcome to come back anytime if you ever want to tell some more stories, because I know
Okay.
you have a ton of them. So,
I do. I do.
all right. Well, if anybody else has out there has a story that you would like to share with the paranormal or unexplained, email me lighttalk423@gmail.com. And while you're at it, click on the like, share, and subscribe buttons. And we will talk with you next time. Bye.